All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Wednesday, October 15th of 2025. Looking ahead here, we have game 3 of the American League Conference Series, I believe is what ALCS stands for. Then we have a hockey main slate later this evening, and then we have Thursday Night Football back tomorrow. So it should be a fun day of DFS. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS-related questions. Get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you also get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do the show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do the show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days. Get your questions answered. All right. Let's get SaberSim up on the screen here, and then we will jump into questions. There were a couple questions that came in at the end of yesterday. I actually just totally missed them. My bad. But I did record those users. The response got it to them yesterday. They were good office hours questions, so I figured we could still talk about them here. That way everyone can kind of make sure to hear that response. But, excuse me. First question of the day. This with regards to bankroll management. There are a couple of topics we were talking about yesterday. Kind of got to carry that over. So in the video, referring to Jordan here, Jordan mentioned that he started with $500 per game week. If I'm working with a $100 budget, is it better to use the full amount in one competition or spread it across multiple competitions with smaller entries? Okay, so we actually have some guidelines in regards to this question, so why it was a good one. So if you go over to Saber School, go over to the Saber system. Now we go to this Saber system lesson 3. Okay, we go to lesson 3. Now about 5-6 minutes in is like our bankroll cheat sheet strategy. Okay, first thing you want to do is set up your contest tab with these parameters, and then it will show you which contest to start entering. So let's say I had $100, right? And let's say that I'm going to play, the upcoming Sunday main slate, right? For NFL. Okay, so we go over to the NFL main slate. We go to the contest tab. So first thing is sorting your contest's highest effective entrance to lowest. Okay. Then another thing is the top price, setting it greater than or equal to your daily wager. Okay. So I want this greater than or equal to 100. All right. Check. Now I want to focus on contests under $3 first. Okay. So I do fee less than $3. Effective entrance. We say to do this greater than or equal to 300 to start. So this is like a pretty good snapshot of like where you should start. And you should always start high to low. So we'll just get rid of these free ones just to not cloud this. So generally, I mean, obviously I would enter the free ones, right? But this is like a pretty good starting point. Okay. Highest effective entrant is the $1 single entry. Okay, this is $1. Then the first down is $20. So we're at 21. Single back is $3. That's 24. Dime package is $2, 26. Quarter jukebox is $5, right? You can just add these up. It's like 1, 21, 24, 26, 31. And then you get into the mini max. So if you were to max out the mini max, you would be at $106 with the highest effective entrant contest, playing contests with a fee under $3. And, you don't have to max it, right? You don't have to go that $6 over. You can just take 12 entries away, which is $6, right? So instead of entering 150, maybe I enter 138. I get a 100 exactly square on the nose. So it is best to set up your filters and then just sort highest effective entrance and start entering these from the top down. And then if you want to see again how to do the filters, I recorded a video on how to do that. That is pinned in the office hours channel. So office hours, pin messages, setting up contest selection filters in the contest tab. Okay, you can go watch that recording anytime. So I just wanted to point out that that's there. All right, good question there. Moving on. I'm on the starter plan, and apparently the master at breaking even. I win all my contests back up to what I bid and rarely win more than $3. I've followed all the videos. However, they seem to be mainly targeted for the ultimate plan. As a new/entry player on the starter plan, what are some settings to use to get over the $5 hump? I've selected the recommended contests, uploaded, didn't touch anything, and let the Sims do its thing. My lineup pool defaults to old Saber score. Change that to Saber score. I'm mainly trusting the Sims, so I'll review. So a couple things with this one, right? Okay, first thing, let's say we take this $1 daily dollar, right? We're saying this is like the best contest to play. All right, so it's $1 entry, 17,835 entrants. But notice the prize pool is 15,000. Okay, so what that means is there are, about $2,835 missing, right? So if we do like 17,835 divided by 15, 1, 2, 3. This means that the contest is being raked. This is the percentage that the house is taking. They're taking about 18.9%. Okay. So automatically your $1 is worth 1 minus 18.9. Nope. Did that backwards. 1 minus 0.189. Whatever this is. Okay, so your $1 becomes 81 cents. So automatically, you're already starting at a deficit. My point for saying this is that if you actually are breaking even, you are winning money. You are beating the rake, right? You are that much better. An average player, the most average player, would lose that 18%. So automatically, if you're winning a couple bucks, if you're breaking even, that's a very good sign. I just want to, say that that's very encouraging, right? You're moving in the right direction. Now it's just about kind of taking you to the next level. Now, one hard part, right, is that you said you're playing FanDuel here. So on FanDuel, we don't have contest flashback because FanDuel doesn't allow us to download the contest data the same way DraftKings does. However, that doesn't mean that, we can't get better over on FanDuel. So if you haven't, which I know you have, but maybe not everyone has, right? Watching the Saber System videos from the bottom up actually here, right? Starting with lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, kind of working your way up there. Really, really good. Staying in the low stakes contests, right? Contests under $3. FanDuel has like a little bit different guidelines as to when a player can no longer see those. But if you can see the contests under $3, those are a great place to be. Okay. Another really good resource is watching some sports specific content over on our YouTube channel, right? So like if you go over to our YouTube, and then you can go over to the playlists section. I'll bring this up on the screen right now. One sec. Come on. There it is. Sorry, it took me longer to get here than I wanted. All right, cool. All right, over on the YouTube, you go to playlists, right? Maybe you want to look at like some sport specific strategy. Maybe you're playing, playoff MLB, right? And you want to learn like some showdown strategy. So I'd do, okay, I'm going to search for MLB Showdown. Okay, there's some office hours videos talking about it. There are some videos that Jordan did, how to beat MLB DFS showdowns, right? Checking these out. So you can find a lot of like very hyper specific content over on the YouTube channel. Another really good place to go. You can request a build review. We still do build reviews in case anybody's not aware. We used to have like a build review show where we used to do build reviews like every day. Kind of ran out of reviews to do. We moved it to like twice a week, once a week. Now we just kind of do them upon request. So if anybody wants to get a build review, you can either shoot us a message, report a problem, or email us, support@sabersim.com. Like, hey, can you review my lineups from the MLB Showdown from Tuesday, 10/14 or something like that, right? And then one of our coaches can get you a review and send it back. But I think there's still a lot of opportunities and ways to get better. And I think if you're breaking even, you're definitely on the right path. Also, one other thing, since we're on the topic here, I just want to point this out and reiterate this. I know this is like a lot different than it has been in the past. So I just want to specifically call this out. All right, we're going to run a quick build. And this is enough lineups. So there was a note here saying my lineup pool defaults to old Saber score. I then changed that to Saber score. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about really quick. So how we sort your pool does not matter anymore with groups. The reason for that is that each group is taking the pool, whatever lineups are available, and reshuffling them. So regardless of whether I have this pool sorted by ROI or Saber score or old Saber score, these lineups just kind of exist. They are there for the groups to grab from. So even if your lineup pool is sorted by something you don't agree with, it is okay. As long as your groups are using either portfolio or you're using Uniques 1 with ROI or with Saber score, this is what matters. Okay, so if you're using Uniques 1 Saber score, if you're using, portfolio, that's all you need to worry about. So you can kind of skip that step of resorting the pool. All right. This was in regards to geomean. Thanks. I've tried geomean a bunch prior to things changing over to portfolio mode. It seems more difficult to settle on a geomean threshold when using portfolio mode and lineup groupings. I guess I would need to go back to start separating single and multi entries into separate builds. So again, going back to like so it's actually an interesting thing that happens, right? And I'm just going to like create a default group. So let's say that I'm playing, 220 maxes, right? But let's say they're very different sizes. One is like, 1,000 entries. One is like 50,000 entries, right? Now, there's a couple of different ways you can handle the geomean here. Number one is you can use a lineup pool geomean, right? This takes lineups out of the pool so they're not available for any group to grab from, right? So I'm going to call this geomean. I'm going to say show lineups with geomean less than, and I'll make up a number, 25. I don't know. This is MLB Showdown, and I might actually be much lower. Okay, I'll say 15, right? So here we filtered out like half our pool, right? So because I did the pool filter, whatever lineups don't meet the requirement go in the trash. Now these two groups can only use the 164 lineups remaining in the pool. The 165 that are in the trash can't be used by any group. Okay, well, what if I wanted to use geomean on my big contest but not my small one? I can apply a filter to only that group, where now that there are all 329 lineups in the pool, group 1 can use all of them. Group 2, if I hover over the filter, it'll say 164 lineups allowed, 165 lineups filtered. the filtered is basically this group's trash. So this group only has access to the 164, but the top group has access to all of them. You can expand this and use a different geomean for every group or for every contest, right? You can be that specific. So I think there is an opportunity to use geomean more specifically on a group by group basis if you want to be that specific, rather than needing to do a different build for each group. You can just do a different group filter, and you might have 5 or 10 geomeans in your list, but like that's okay. Each one is assigned to a specific group. You're only going to use that one. So just some food for thought there. All right. Next question. Could you go over how to make a rule? I'm trying to make a limit of 2 players versus opposing defense in NFL Showdown. Yeah, for sure. We could definitely try and figure out a way to write this rule. So go over to NFL. Tomorrow's the 16th. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Okay, we go over to build lineups. All right. So we want to write a rule limit of 2 players versus opposing defense. All right. So what I would say is use if. So if at least one team's DST, probably change position to any. Let me remove the question, move myself over. So if at least one team's defense, we're going to use any, which captures both captain and flex. Then I would say then use no more than 2 on the opposing team. And then I would select all the positions. So this would make it so you never have more than 2 players from the opposing team when you are using one team's defense. So this is like a good baseline. I would start here and see if this gets the job done. And then if anything, you can kind of tweak it from here. But this is a very strong starting rule that should allow you to make it more specific as needed. But you basically want a rule that looks like this. All right. Next question. Is there a way, let me move back. Is there a way in the new release to run Sims/portfolio diversifier if I haven't uploaded contests yet? This seems to have changed since the last update. Not sure if it's still possible to do this. Thank you. Okay. So you can still use portfolio. So we'll talk about this. So like right now, I don't have any contests uploaded, right? My upload button is green. My contest says 0. I can come in here, make 2 adjustments, 2 projections. I can just make a group that uses portfolio, and then I can send this off, right? So we're going to let this build. All right. Build is almost done. So now Sim is running, right? And now the diversifier is running. So I have lineups now, right? I have lineups. I have exposures. I'm using portfolio. So the answer to can you do this is yes. But there are a couple caveats, right? Now, this is just using portfolio. Okay, this is running the simplified contest sim. This is running that one default sim. Okay, it's not using any specific contest information. All right. Now, the second part is that unfortunately you can't make it do that, right? You can't say, okay, well, I want to do it for the flagship, right? It's only going to do it for the contest sim that is either uploaded or for the simple one. Now, I think there are like some ways to get around this. Like if you were trying to build for the flagship, maybe you just throw one entry in and then you go to the contest tab after uploading and you change the user entries to however many entries you're going to end up playing. Maybe you're planning on playing 20. Maybe you're going to play 150, right? So you can just change the numbers as needed by putting in one lineup. That obviously doesn't work as good for like maybe some of the higher stakes stuff. You could enter and then download the file and then withdraw, and that way you at least like have the file. So like those are some of the ways I could imagine doing this for a specific contest, but those are like the only ways that come to mind currently. All right, next question. Doing 150 lineups in MLB Showdown on DK, and notice that 95 of my 150 lineups have a pitcher at the captain. That exposure seems quite high. However, I am new to MLB Showdown. Okay, so let's go back. I think we ran a build for Toronto, Seattle. So first off is I wouldn't say this is particularly bad or like not normal to see. The main thing comes down to like how well projected these players are. The pitchers just generally project so much higher than the batters. And then also, right, is that the pitchers' range of outcomes are a lot more consistent. They have this nice like kind of bell-shaped curve where their average score is a lot closer to like their most common score as opposed to like batters. Even the best batters like Cal Raleigh, still gets 0 like a quarter of the time. And his graph looks a lot different, right? His 13 points is not his highest or even close to it by far. So part of it is like consistency and range of outcomes. Part of it is like, their ownership, right? Like, okay, I'm getting, 2/3, right? 100 would be 2/3, like 66%. 66% captain pitchers. Well, we're expecting the field to roster pitchers in the captain about 40% of the time. So you're a little over, right? Like 1.5x, but you're not that far over, right? So part of it is like, hey, well, how owned are these guys? They project really well. They have a good point per dollar value. They're very consistent with their outcomes, a lot more consistent than batters. So all in all, I just point out all those things as a way to justify me saying that I think it is totally okay to see pitchers in the captain at that much exposure. All right, next question. Does the geomean metric work for FanDuel single game? Whenever I apply the geomean, it always gives me 0 lineups. Good question. So yes, it does still apply on FanDuel. You might just be being too aggressive with it. So like, for instance, okay, we go over to tomorrow, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. And I'm just queuing up another question. Hold on. All right, just drop that one in here. All right, so we go over to FanDuel, right? And then we go to like our build. Oh, okay, for baseball, sorry. FanDuel, baseball. No, it's all good. Thanks for clarifying. All right, so we go over for today. So let's see. So we got MVP and utility. Okay, so there is one like thing to note here that could potentially be messing this up, is that on FanDuel, we only show total ownership and we don't show the difference between MVP and utility. It's like a technical thing that like our team is has to fix, but basically like Captain Raleigh and Flex Raleigh on DraftKings are like two different players from like a data perspective, but on FanDuel, they don't differentiate. So it makes it harder to like show their different ownerships and stuff like that. So it's actually something that we have to build out internally, which has been a highly requested thing this season, especially since FanDuel expanded their single game format to be 6 players instead of 5. So I would probably not be using it on FanDuel just yet. I don't think it's like a great option. Just because I don't think you're getting, perfectly accurate values for like MVP versus utility. So if you wanted to do something, I would probably recommend going a little bit more of like the sum ownership route and chopping off, 5 to 10% of like the highest sum owned lineups or something like that to try and get some dupe relief. But the good news is that, MLB Showdown is one of the lower dupe heavy sports as far as showdowns go, just because there's a lot of players and relief pitchers can get mixed in. So I think there's a lot more opportunity to be unique without needing to be super aggressive. So good question there. All right, next one. Is there a way to save filters in the contest tab so we don't need to put them in every time? Okay, I think this is with regards to the contest selection stuff that we talked about earlier, right? Like contest selection filters. I do not think there is a way of doing that, but I could see that being like a pretty good reason for like being able to save them. So I'm going to take this back to the team as a feature request and see if we can do something to set this up to where you can save contest table filters to kind of go hand in hand with our contest selection recommendations. So I think that's a great idea. All right. I think we are all caught up here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next show. So until then, everybody take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.